So, okay, just my camera. So, hey guys, today we have a special guest for you all. His name is Yishuai. He's from Google. So, I'm really excited to have him on and to talk about what is good software engineer and his journey all the way up to become a software in Google. He's really great engineer, a lot of insights into software engineering. So I'm hyped, and I'll hand over to Yishuai to give you all a quick introduction about himself.
Oh, thank you, Alison. Well, first of all, really thanks for the kind word. Uh, yeah, and also this is a great opportunity for me. Thank you for doing this and building this channel for a lot of people. And I sincerely hope this really help them in a way, because I wish when I was younger, I hope I find more channel like this. Uh, a quick introduction about myself, which Alison already covered most of it. I'm now a senior software engineer in Google, but actually I just joined the Google for less than a year. Before that, I worked for Amazon, and then a smaller uh, like traffic map data company, and then NTT data. So I had a couple of hops. So this is uh yeah, basically about me.
Nice, nice man. So I think your journey is really different from a lot of people online, right? They like a lot of people they did some LeetCode code question. They understand to solve algorithm questions. And after graduating from school, then they joined Google because they did well in the interview. But on your side, it's more like a journey full of experience. You hop around different workplaces, and eventually you joined Google and to become a senior software engineer, which is quite impressive, to be honest. Like I feel like a lot of engineers in the software world, they kind of stopped at one company and never hopped around. So, so I think not only myself but the audience also really interested in learn more about like your journey and your thought process of like just keep jumping, and also like what was your mindset around like what drives you like keeps hopping around.
This is this is a great question to start. So uh, I think every job for me. Oh, first of all, before I start with anything, I wouldn't say I'm a great role models. There are definitely more people in much younger age achieve a higher position, acquire more skills. They are there, but here are my humble opinion. Hopefully, it makes sense. So for every hop that I had, they were all for different reasons. The first one, when I started with a fairly big IT consulting company, that was because I suck. I
Mm,
I didn't do a lot of lead code questions because I didn't have the resource and the connection to teach me, oh, you should practice those. So unfortunately, my first job didn't land well, but that actually didn't stop me from being curious and learn things uh, in any work. So that's how I feel. So I just whenever I feel when an opportunity or my current position couldn't provide the opportunity for me to keep grow, or the overall domain or industries wouldn't be interesting enough, that's where I
mhm.
make the jump. Of course, compensation wise is another consideration. That's for sure. However, uh, one single principle always consistent for me is that I value opportunities more than anything.
I see.
Any position that I stayed, it has to provide better opportunities for me. Otherwise, you have to make a move. So I think that's where it keeps guiding me, uh, changing position and seeking uh, for better jobs.
Gotcha. So so it sounds like it's the inner desire for a like more um like a more exciting opportunity keeps driving you looking for the next opportunity. So would you say this, Ishrai, like for anyone who started as a software engineer, no matter what company they're at, will is it possible for them to achieve or join a company like Google eventually and become a senior software engineer? Is that you think it's something doable or it's delusional? Just
Well,
want to
that
get your
that's
2 cents.
that's a sharp one. And well, possibility wise, yes, of course, for sure, everyone is possible of that. However, well, I think I'm pretty sure many people would think the same, that well, Google is definitely not the ultimate stuff. Like it's not everything here is shining or good. It's just probably one of the best opportunities, but there are still plenty. And then all as I think later to your career is it's more different people start looking into different things. There
Mm,
are maybe more startup or smaller company that really tailored for someone have more ambition having want to have a more flexibility and want to have their way into a lot of important decisions. Then so yeah. But back to your question, yeah, I would think for anyone with various background, there's always opportunity to get in Google for sure.
gotcha. So just follow up on that question then. If it's possible, like what would you say is usually the kind of qualities will be considered when, interview as Google, like as a qualified engineer?
So for me to be well, the part of the question that I can answer is more probably towards intermediate or senior level, because I didn't even try to apply Google when I was a fresh graduate. So I'm afraid I couldn't say I know that criteria well. But
Mm,
I think I'm more familiar on that intermediate to senior level. So that's where it also gets tricky for any companies. So besides it's really solid technical skills, including the your of course your coding skill, your overall engineer mindset. Besides that, well, Google is more towards the technical savvy part. So
see.
they just from their interview process, you can tell like they tend to ask more tricky questions. Even
Mm,
their system design is more instead of like a maybe test water of uh, your knowledge base, it's more giving more specific challenge. So I think that's a more specific flavor for Google. However, what is inevitable, just to be more practical, uh, you do have to practice a lot of the code. So it's just like a minimum bar. So you don't get tripped by one tricky question. Then
gotcha.
your day-to-day accumulation of technical knowledge in general will shine in the whole process.
Hmm. So Yishao, what would you say is the general technical skills you were mentioning, right? Previously, you're saying one thing is about tackle the algorithm questions during interview, but the other side is more like soft, right? Like the technical skills. Um, what do you mean by that? What kind of
I
technical
really like
skills?
yeah. So one theory that I always like, which I didn't invent it. I learned it from some book saying this industry really need a T-shape elite. The
Hmm.
T-shape means it's like a horizontal strike and then a vertical one. So the horizontal represents the width of your knowledge. You have to know a lot of different things to piece together a service, an application, a product. You can't say, okay, oh, I'm backend engineer, I only know data, or like I'm a front end, I can only build HTML. You have to have a really enough knowledge, just know a bit, because today for a products get so complicated. There's just so many components, so many data floating around. You really have to have a broader knowledge to just have a whole picture. But
Hmm.
the other the vertical strike of the T means you also need a one specialty where you stand out. Like for me, I try to stick myself around the data, including data's collecting data, data processing, machine learning, getting insights out of the data. And definitely, I'm weaker on the front end mobile development, but still, I can speak their language fluently so that we build a product together. I think this is where, if I can give on one suggestion, uh, everyone should work towards this principle.
So in summarize, it's like you have a broad knowledge, you get in touch of different components of software engineering, like front end, back end, app development, machine learning, so on and so forth. But you have one domain you really dig deep and focus on in the long term.
Yep. At least
Gotcha.
for engineers. Yeah, that's my take on that.
Gotcha. So what is so for someone like aspiring engineers who either want to become a software engineer or want to eventually get into Google, they probably really curious about the interview process from you who literally got into Google, went through the interview process instead of the recruiters what they will tell you the interview process like and what is important, what is not. So can you give us a quick brief, like you don't have to give too much details, but just like an overview or your feelings when went through the whole process?
Sure, I'll give it a shot. So,
Yeah.
because I can't assume every audience for our channel already are like super familiar with the whole interview process. The whole structure for the interview are typical. So you usually have a 4 to 5 rounds. So probably one of it is talking with the manager, just so it has more like a general questions to just get to know about your personality. But at least those 4 rounds for the rest are technical involved. So they definitely would include 2 to 3 rounds of a coding question. So these are the more typical lead code question challenge. One thing I want to say about that is your interviewers definitely know that question inside out. So don't be surprised that they will follow up and they go deep into things. So my strategy usually is I don't fake things. If it's really something like, oh, that's the best solution I can get, I don't refer to some fancy words, try to cover it up. That then also try to hear his opinion. Sometimes they are usually friendly. Like if they think you can do better, they would toss in some tips to get you going. So that's for the technical part. But usually for intermediate or senior level, you would have a 1 or 2 rounds of either system design or more specific domain. So at least for my case, I want them to challenge me on machine learning because I think I have enough background on that too. So they would find some expertise on that to touch base on that end. So that could be very different for different expertise on different domains. So I wouldn't say too much on that because data scientists would be very much different than UI designer. But the system design, I can shed a bit of more light on that. So that's what I experienced for Google is you can call it a system design. So it's more than just finish up a function or class. So it probably will involve more components. However, even for some of the critical components, they do want you to code up. So in a sense, they do really value your actual coding skill. So which I think in a way it's not very friendly for more senior developer. Because sometimes a senior developer in other companies could be really the strategy maker or like overall architecture. Coding is probably not their day-to-day work anymore, but then you probably have to sharpen up your skills if you're really specifically targeting Google's interview.
Understand. So sounds like no matter you're targeting senior level or entry level, coding, like hands-on coding is really important during the interview process. Gotcha. Then, okay, so we talk about the interview process. What about like how to get an interview at the first place?
Yeah, I think there are many different channels. So for my case, maybe I've been in the industry for a while, so I was lucky that a recruiter reached out to me from either email or LinkedIn. You can definitely proactively reaching out either by LinkedIn or friends or whatever. Yeah, I think as long as you have a well-polished, well-organized resume, and you do have some good project on your belt, you should be able to get an opportunity.
I see. Also, in my career, what I learned is that sometimes referral is more like effective than simply, just apply straight on the career website. So yeah, that's just one. I want to add one more set points there.
I totally agree with you. I mean, that layer of a referral really works out. People,
Okay, I found this
overall
on the
have a
web
more.
for also in my career. What I learned that sometimes referral is more
Sorry,
like a
I think it's Apple. They really need to improve their like voice recognition, whatever technology, Should find our friends who are working at Apple and have them fix this shit.
Uh, Exactly. I mean,
It
that
happens.
happened to me a lot with Alexa. Same thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm glad I had earbuds on this time. So, I don't even want to say its name.
Well,
Yeah.
get back to your point. Yeah, I think referrals totally works because the people in general really trusted more for people referred. Yeah, that's well, as long as we deserve that opportunity, that's referral is definitely the best route to get the opportunity.
Awesome, man. So then, okay, so we talked about how to get an interview, what's the interview process looks like overall. Then I'm curious, like what's a day of life and like at Google looks like after pandemic,
Well,
right?
yeah, well, this is a dodgy question because, well, I mean, to our um, veteran, I wouldn't say like a really well, but at least us are all veterans. So it's really vary a lot by different teams for any
Okay.
company. So, but overall for Google, Google does have some unique parts. So for example, they have a free lunch and dinner. So
Oh yeah, yeah,
that's
that's
an
awesome.
interesting part. Um, uh, but further than that, like the culture of the whole Google is you do see the engineer are really valued. That's actually quite impressive. Even from those hints are from their like orientation videos or like the training material. You can tell like they value um, engineers' well-being, your life, and your opinion a lot. So
Mhm.
I'm not uh, giving my pay grade. I don't think I have enough experience to say which culture works better. But this is just to be objective. This is kind of more like a Google's culture.
I see. But what about the day of life? Like when you usually get up, when do stand up or like you chit chat with colleagues. Like what's overall structure of your day looks like?
Yeah. Again, that's really depends on the team. Like
I didn't
for my
get
Mm,
that.
specific
Could
team,
you try again?
um, so like a big part of my team are actually in California. So there are limited local colleagues with me. So, but unfortunately, I'm the kind of person really like to chat a lot. So I usually
okay.
ping them to yeah just get a conversation. I trust like a team bonding that really works for long term. So I definitely in this team I'm trying to push for that. Um, uh, in terms of other part, like Google has a lot of flexibility. I
Mm,
hope my team represent for other team, but the flexibility comes in um, strategic, like a business decision, the way you do work,
mm.
and your time management. So I think it's just like you mentioned, right? Like your day-to-day work is stand-up things. We usually don't even do stand-up
Oh,
unless
really?
it's needed. Yeah, we will have weekly sync up for different reasons. If you have an ongoing project that requires more frequent sync up, you can set up one. But usually we don't have that, fixed stand up. You are on your own. So and you also decide most of your sprint tasks, which is also surprising to me. So
That's
I think
awesome.
that's yeah, yeah, well, good and bad. It really depends, right? Like for people having very really sharp goals or visions for your roadmap, this is great. You manage your own time, you invest your time on different things to balance short term, long term. But if some more like tech savvy persons, they just want to keep their heads down to build awesome things. They want other more like professionals to build a roadmap for them. They might even struggle a bit. So that's how I
Mm,
feel. Like I'm not sure if overall Google is expecting individuals to have a really more all-round traits. So like you both know how to do tech well, and also you see the business end to do the right thing, which is a lot to ask, but that's how I feel now.
I understand, man. So yeah, if I would be love to work for Google as a software engineer manager. Sounds like I don't have to do a lot of things. No need to manage sprints, no need to manage like quarterly planning, all that stuff. Just let my engineer do all that stuff. It sounds like fun.
Well, you're definitely very qualified for that, so you may want to give it a
Yeah.
shot. Who knows?
Yeah, just chit chat, I don't even have to do stand up.
Yeah.
Well, that's really cool. I mean, a lot of things I value, like when I was an engineer, is that the freedom, right? The amount of freedom I can have every day, and try to avoid the useless, redundant meeting as much as possible. But it sounds like Google really values that and gave the time back to engineers. Love that.
Yep.
That's really cool.
That's definitely a plus.
So, Yishuan, the question going to be a little bit interesting is like, I have for you is like, would you say is the pros and the cons, especially cons, working for Google?
I think we just touched on a lot of pros,
Yeah,
right? Like the
yeah,
freedom for your decision making, for the tech selection, as well as your time management. But all of this could be a con in a way. Just imagine, like for a fresh graduates, right? Like you really need a kind of a time in your life that you probably need more guidance. You need a more strict rule so you can follow. You see how a really high concurrency service work, how they guarantee a launch wouldn't explode in the next day, how you launch a service that you keep monitoring it, that when this customer like it exponentially grows, it will continue to work, it will scales well. So maybe it's because I came from Amazon, because which they tends to set really good rules, really standard, really good procedures to launch or to build things. So suddenly they're taking away all of this, which make me feel strange. So I'm not saying Google don't value that. It does. It actually use another way around. They build a lot of automation. The interesting thing is, so for the code that you check in, even just a couple of lines, it's actually very difficult to ship it. They have a lot of automation built in to ensure really high quality of the code. However, I think this is a good side, but I would prefer they have a more human intervention as well. A good SOP, a good procedure to make sure every product has a really high bar, have a really high standard before shipping. I think that's where, for some team, maybe when they're get used to be like this really flexible startup style of a quality, they could use more on that. So that's one thing. Another thing is, another thing which I think could apply to any kinds of a company. So Google, by holding a very high bars for hiring people, meaning at least a lot of the people here are really gifted. They're really good. They're rock star engineers. So that automatically generates this peers pressure. So maybe that's more for me. So, but I'm a person that I don't really want to fall behind. I want to be the
competitive person.
Yeah, exactly. So how things change, people those are not slots. They're all very good. So it could it could just without notice adding a lot of pressure. But well, sometimes pressure is good, but I do want to call it out. It could be a good thing, or it could be a bad thing for someone.
I see. Yeah, that's really good to know. Like, sounds like I like the philosophy shout out you made. Is like anything good sounds like a profit. Sounds like the benefits could be like hinder or could be an obstacle from another perspective. I 100% agree. Like anything goes to one stream is definitely gonna hurt you in some way, and how to find a balance, no matter who you're working for, it's important. Not only only focus on whatever is happening right now, whatever is going on in your project, but also thinking from a long term, from a career's perspective, like what will benefit you as an engineer the most. So yeah, I love that, Yishai. It's really, really insightful.
Thank you.
Oh man, so what's your, I'm not sure, have you thought about this question, but what's your next move?
One sec.
Because
I don't
you're,
understand. I see. I
oh my
see.
God, Siri, you're insane. Sorry about that, guys.
No, yeah, she really want to answer this question more than me.
Yeah, exactly,
So,
man. Like
oh,
she's really
well, that's
really eager to answer question. Like, hey, stop asking about Google, start asking about Apple. What about Apple?
maybe for next episode for the podcast. Okay, well, yeah, for me, the next move, I'm kind of in a pivot point, in a way. So, um, all my early years, I have a fairly specific goal in technical wise. I want to learn I want to learn A, I want to learn B, I want to be uh, like a pretty good at one thing or two. But now it's I think it's a common sense that it's really getting vague once you
Mm-hmm.
get into a certain point. So everyone can write a big service with a very good concurrency or something. Everyone can do a little bit of data, knows how to piece together a couple of tools and service to a product. Then what's next, right? Like
Yeah.
they have you still have a principal engineers. You even have a VP. What are they doing?
Mm.
You may see them kind of connected with 10 more teams, 10 plus organizations or teams. How would they even manage that? So that's a miss to me. So technical wise, I still want to keep improving, especially on machine learning. I think that's my big bet. So like I want get back to my principle. Like I just keep widen my horizontal T and keep
Mm.
going down that path specifically on machine learning. But to a certain point, I already realized that I'm not no longer the very cutting edge of technology anymore. There just things are changing so fast. If you're reading
Mm.
books every day, you still couldn't keep up. On the other hand, we start seeing a lot of the underneath uh, key factor, which is a business. At the end of the day, we engineers, we build products. They gotta make money, make revenue, or make a service that value to someone, so your team survives. So the stuff you build makes sense. That's where I think also I want to learn more. Otherwise,
Mm.
I would be a really a strong bullet in a piston, but pointing about others. I can be as powerful as explosive as I can. But if they pointed the wrong direction, I still hit the wrong target. I
I
want to
see.
be one day to be the one uh, can make the decision. So where can I get there? Should I become a manager? Should I become a tech lead for a bigger org? I'm not entirely sure. So I think that's my exploration journey to see
Mm.
where I can land myself in a new position and make a bigger impact.
I, I like that answer because I think it's quite fitting to, I think, a lot of engineers. I would call it the like engineer midlife crisis, you know, like you got in this position, you are senior in the team, you're comfortable, right? Like you understand all the domain you're working on right now. You've been in the industry for a while, and it comes to a point like you need to make a decision whether you keep going on with the tech track, still be an engineer, but keep going, like become a principal engineer, architect, or senior architect in the future. It's quite rewarding, and the conversation, like be honest, is quite well. Or you can transferring to what I did. I became a software engineering manager. It's totally different path. I was no more writing code. I haven't done any kind of specific design for years, right? So it's become solely like people management. Sometimes it involves a lot of politics. So I think for any aspiring engineers, you guys are watching this, I think it's something to keep in the back of your mind. Maybe not the top priority yet, but it will come to you sooner or later. So yeah, thanks, Isra, for that.
I definitely will stay tuned to your channel as well to get the answer. So you probably should do it. Maybe we can do this reverse next time. I interview you to share like how to convert to that and what you learned, which can help a lot of engineers like me.
Yeah, yeah, sure, man.
Me the engineer of courses. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that idea for sure. Then, okay, so like we talk a lot about a lot of things about Google, about interview and career and stuff. But for people who are not engineers yet, or who are just entrepreneurs who are interested in recruiting or funding a technical co-founder, or they are just curious about tech in general, because for people who are not technical, I feel like engineering is like a myth for them. It's scary, right? It's all coding, like really hard, complex system. But in summarize, would you give us some hints or general qualities of a good engineer versus an engineer who sucks? Because we know in the market, there are a lot of engineers who can do things, similar things, but they are much more affordable. What I meant by that is probably a same project, you're trying to find a freelancer online. Some of them get like, let's say they require like 10 times more expensive than some other people who can offer like similar promise of deliverable was 1/10 of the cost. But there is definitely like good and bad. It's not that obvious, not like a marketing agency, right? Marketing, they would say, I will get you 10 times of your leads sales, right? It's really clear measure. But for engineering, for people who don't understand engineering, it's hard to measure. So I think use this opportunity to ask you, you're such a quite experienced engineer, like what would you say differentiate a good qualified engineer versus, just a normal sloppy engineer?
I personally really like this question. That's a not even not $1 million question. It's a $1,000 question already. Because that actually because it will benefit both people who need engineer to solve their problem, also for engineers themselves because we can make ourselves more valuable.
Yeah.
I will give a take of my idea. I would like to split my answer to two parts. Well, again, we're engineers, so the technical part has to be solid. So how to quantify this solid technical part is, I think to a certain point, it's a good engineer has to be very curious, always very curious, always eager to learn. You don't want to hire a very even senior experience or whatever, but they just stop learning. They don't want to touch things they don't like. It's not gonna run long. So it's just the nature of any business. You have to touch on things you don't know. You have to explore. So like really having just one metrics to gauge how good a engineer is on tech wise, it's just so hard for me. I probably can't give a good answer. However, you can tell from it just being curious means it keeps learning. So overall, it won't be he or she wouldn't be a bad engineer after all. So this is on the technical wise, and then later get back to the T shape. So just during your engaging with an engineer, if you can tell he or she has fairly wide knowledge on technical wise, but have a one or two specialty, that's a good sign of a strong tech background. And then another part is the soft skills. I think it gets too important for a really well qualified engineer. The soft skills include, I think the business mind comes first. Like I don't think it's really the manager or the business person's job to chew a idea down to bits and then to some language that an engineer understand. On the other way around, the engineer has to be able to speak the business language because that's where you bring value. You can't build a really kick-ass software which don't make any money at all. It worth nothing. So it's really engineer's job to start giving you a progress of your career, start to understand why you're building the things, and being able to communicate why this is valuable, why this is important for a situation. So that leads to the next point for the soft skill is communication. I, as an engineer, value communication a lot. I think that's a fundamental of the teamwork and collaboration. So it's not an excuse that, okay, you're a strong engineer, it's okay. If you do, even if you don't talk, you don't write good slides, it's okay. That's not a green pass to me. I think communication is just so important to express your ideas, to give a critical input, and as well as collaborate with business intelligence. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, 100% agree. I value communication a lot because like modern days, all the projects are so huge. I don't believe anyone, like a solo WAF engineer, could build a gigantic multi-threading concurrent, like gigantic system at all. So collaboration is the theme in the engineering space for sure. So then Israel, like what's your thoughts on, let's say, because for a lot of non-technical person, they look at a project or like, okay, so this software engineer, he can do it like 20K, the other one do it in 2K, but eventually they deliver the same UI UX, right? The same app installed on your phone. But do you have, there must be something different, right? Inside of these two apps. And like let's say one app is built by a Google Android or Flutter engineer. The other one is built by, I don't know, some guy who just started doing software engineering and just started learning Flutter. It looks like the same, but what would you say is the easy way to tell or to understand what's the difference inside it going on there?
I think that in that situation, that really explains why people like you are so important, because you speak the business language and you can also tell bullshit of the engineers. So on the side, on the outside, yeah, they all look the same, but I think a couple of critical questions would reveal differently. For example, like how extensible is this app, right? Like, do you even have a accessible background that you can make updates to the app? So someone could build this in 2 days, which is a really crappy one time job with a lot of boilerplates where a lot of hard coded thing. There's no way you can maintain it. So that's like the extendability, the maintenance, and also the being able to scale with the increasing traffic. Those are, I think, a inventory that I always check in terms of the quality of a job.
For sure, for sure. I 100% agree with the extensibility of any app because, like, I don't know about you, you try in Google, but in my previous job I did as an engineer, I spent like 90% of my time just spending on maintaining stuff like security patches or some plugging updates. Just paying the ass in the long term. If initial code was really shitty, they're intertwined with each other, cross dependency, it's almost impossible to do the job in the long run. To add a new feature, add a
I
new
feel
module.
you.
Yeah, right.
I feel it. Yeah, but the thing is, you see, like the question is so hard to answer. Like, how can we even tell two identical app which one is better, right?
Yeah,
Is that explained? That also reflect how difficult for engineers to convince decision maker that, okay, we got to invest on extensibility,
yeah,
scalability, and maintenance for application. Because how can you justify you're saving money down the road? So yeah, I think this is ongoing. This is like a really eternal question that is always challenge every business and engineers.
I agree. But I think one way for business owners or like people who are trying to build software, one metric's like a golden rule is that whether the people who build it willing to maintain it, right? If you find a contractor who just build your software that's a one-off, they will not maintain it at all. It's probably a bad incentive mechanism because they won't give
Absolutely.
they won't give any shit about like how to maintain this stuff in the long run. So it's better to finish as quick as possible. And
Yeah,
whoever
it's
will
just what I,
maintain the code base for long term, they will care and try to write the code in more elegant and sustainable way.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's hard. And also, I hope the world, the market will reward business or teams that keep that in mind. Like people or team build long-lasting project should get their reward.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll see how that goes, man. It's
Yeah.
it's a big problem for a long time. Hopefully this conversation is going to help more people understand the problem. And yeah, we are trying our little bit here.
Yep.
So
We're doing
he's
our
right.
job. Yeah.
Yep. So he's right. Got one last question. It's about what's your, because you've been working for smaller companies, but also work for bigger company like Amazon, like Google, that's gigantic company. So what's your advice for young people or engineers who are trying to, because some of them want to work for a startup, right? It's more exciting and potentially there's higher rewards in the end. And for people who want to get into big tech, which is more safe and the pay is more like transparent or predictable, right? So what's your thoughts over there?
Now I'm looking back.
Yeah.
I kind of wish if my first job could land in a bigger company. I was not competent enough to do that, but if I had a choice, I would. Especially like, I know that it's for Amazon, there's well, not even rumor, like it's probably more intense. But for younger age, you really have that energy and have that room to make mistakes and to just bite the bullet and spend your time. So I highly recommend for early stage of your career, if you have an opportunity, actually go to a big company just to experience it. Either it's 1 year, 2 year, 4 year, or longer time. At least you know what it is, and that wouldn't be a mystery for you anymore. It's just the case for me, because I was in the smaller company before. Even Amazon sounds like a really untouchable goal. I feel like, oh, once I get there, I'm done for the rest of my life. I just can lay back. Then it's not. There's just way more new challenges coming up, and I start thinking more. But well, at the same time, once you step in the door, you see it's just another company, another team, another goal, another task with a bunch of people. Then you really start thinking of what you are really looking for, what you make yourself more stand out, more valuable, so that you reward when get more compensation that based on your contribution. So yeah, it's just well, if you're really interested with a big company, try to get in one. But then once you know what you want, that's yeah, it's also very okay to jump out and start something small.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards agree with you on that for sure. It's like this earlier you get into bigger company, the earlier you realize it's nothing too special. It's all about teamwork and handle every single day-to-day operation and jobs or project you are building, and report the status, right, and communicate with other teams. It's nothing too mysterious or glorifying itself, but I feel like you will be able to learn a systematic way of managing the projects, be able to deliver on time, and be able to communicate efficiently. I think these are really important skills to the later part of your career.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I want to add one other thing, like is when we are in big company, try to learn their procedure, their way of setting up a rule, because there's always a reason behind it. And so maybe one day when you're going to a smaller one, or even you're building your own, some of their rules, their principles, their culture can be borrowed, because it's probably it has been well tested in the market for a longer time. So that's how I think about it.
For sure, man. Like I still remember the frugality, right, from Amazon. It's like one banana per day.
People like to tease that, but that's very true.
Yeah, frugality.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that. That's why I never worked for Amazon. I pray for more free food. So.
Yeah, it's a bummer that well definitely I won't badmouth about Amazon, but that's their thing.
Yeah, that's their specialty. All right, Yishai. That's all the questions I got. for you today. I mean, it's amazing to have you on. A lot of great insights and wisdom towards software engineering, towards career, and even towards like for people who are trying to recruit software engineer. I think a lot of valuable points there. Really happy to have you on. And for the audience, if you think this is valuable, I think you definitely should think this is useful. And leave your comments down below. Any other questions towards if you want to have Isha back talk about other topic. I will try my best to have him back and talk more interesting stuff on engineering life and the career entrepreneurship, all that stuff. All right, guys, subscribe and like this video, and hope you all have an amazing day. Thank you.